This is Vineet Pandey. Almost board set हो गया है and we are back to study. तो आज हम पढ़ाई करने वाले हैं. We are going to talk about CUET. This is actually connected to CUET PZ, but equally good for all other competitions, especially if you have English literature. तो आज पढ़ाई करने वाले हैं और ये डायरेक्ट टॉपिक कनेक्टेड है CUET PZ से, लेकिन दिस इज द पार्ट ऑफ नेट, दिस इज द पार्ट ऑफ UPSC. Why? Because in net, when you study Elizabethans, William Shakespeare, the rise of sonnet, the introduction of sonnet is an important part of Elizabethan age. Along with that, if you're for UPSC students, you know Shakespeare is directly prescribed in your syllabus. Though Shakespeare is there as a dramatist, but what if they ask you a question that Shakespeare has written in blank verse? What are the contributions of Shakespeare in the poetry, Elizabethan poetry? So if you are from CUTPC background, PGT बैकग्राउंड, अगर आप PGT के स्टूडेंट हो या आपको लगता है कि मैं किसी पब्लिक सर्विस कमीशन का स्टूडेंट हूँ, HPSC, हिमाचल प्रदेश, हरियाणा प्रदेश, तो आपके किसी भी जो एग्जाम से रिलेटेड है, दिस इज द पार्ट ऑफ योर टॉपिक, दिस इज द पार्ट ऑफ योर क्लास, आपको आना चाहिए. I will try in this lecture to make it easy for you all, to make you understand what is sonnet. हम इसके बारे में बात करने वाले हैं. इससे पहले आपने एक घड़ी का नाम सुना होगा, सोनेटो. सोनेटो की घड़ी, राइट? तो लेट्स टॉक अबाउट सोनेट. इसको यहां से थोड़ा सा मिटा देते हैं. बोर्ड पे पढ़ाने का मजा ही कुछ और है. So first thing, my dear friends, first of all, the word sonnet comes from the Italian word sonetto, which means a small poem. A small poem. Sonnet comes from sonetto, a small poem. The word sonetto is Italian word. ये Italian word है, so technically the rise of sonnet comes from sonetto, the word which means small poem. Remember this thing, initially sonetto in Italian language was used for the poetry of love and romance. A poetry of love and romance. So sonnet, a small poetry, sonetto, a small poetry which was sometimes usually sung with the music instrument sonetto. It was used for love and romance poetry. From where this comes? This comes from Italy. Now the point to be noted here. अब आपको सबसे important point देखना है. So I'll change the color. Frederick II, the Holy King, Frederick II, is believed to be the first person who introduced this style, sonetto. Frederick II, the Holy King, the pious man, Frederick II, believed to be the first man who has invented or introduced sonetto. Means by chance, if they ask a tough question, normally they won't ask. इतना टफ क्वेश्चन नहीं पूछेंगे. व्हाट इफ दे आस्क अ टफ क्वेश्चन? सो अगर टफ क्वेश्चन पूछेंगे तो फ्रेडरिक सेकंड, फर्स्ट पर्सन इन इटली. लेट्स मेक इट मोर इजी, नॉट इन इटली ओनली. इटली में एक फेमस जगह है. देयर इज अ फेमस प्लेस इन इटली, सिसिली. इफ यू हैव बीन टू इटली, अगर आप कभी घूमने गए, सिसिली बहुत खूबसूरत है. ही वाज अ सिसिलियन किंग एंड अ होली मैन. He's believed to be the first person who talks about sonnet, the man who introduced sonetto. हालांकि it's a tough question. CUTPC में ये क्वेश्चन नहीं आएगा, पेपर सेटर को भी नहीं आता होगा, नेट में आ सकता है. ठीक है. नाउ लेट्स गेट बैक. अब हम वापस चलते हैं. द मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग अगेन, sonnet comes from Italy. sonnet कहां से आ रहा है? sonnet comes from Italy. Fine. And who are the first person to use sonnet? Sicilian writers, Sicilian poets, right? यही पढ़ा आपने अभी तक. Now the most surprising point is that not even a single manuscript. Sonnet comes from Italy, from Sicily. Sicilian poets and singers are the first people to use the sonnet, but at present we do not have any single manuscript in Sicilian language to get a proof of this. So we know that yes, it comes from Sicily, it comes from Italy, but again, the only proof we have is the translated sonnet. So how do we know about that it is Sicilian and it is Italian? The translated version of the translated sonnets or we can write sonetos from Sicilian to Tuscan language. From Sicilian to Tuscan language. टफ लग रहा है? ऐसा लग रहा होगा ना कि रे कितना टफ है, विनीत सर क्या पढ़ा रहे हैं, इतना हाई फाई आएगा कि नहीं आएगा. मैं जैकेट हटा देता हूँ, गर्मी भी हो रही है. कोट के साथ पढ़ाना बड़ा मुश्किल होता है, लगता है थोड़ा खुल के पढ़ाया जाए. टफ लग रहा होगा, मस्ट बी थिंकिंग यार सर क्या पढ़ा रहे हैं, मैंने तो पासबुक में पढ़ा ही नहीं था. ऐसा लग रहा होगा यार मैंने तो गाइड बुक में देखा भी नहीं है, तो क्या पढ़ा रहे हैं, व्हाट इज दिस गोइंग ऑन. सो लेट्स गेट बैक. How do we get to know about the Sicilian sonnets? We know that the language got translated in Tuscan language. Tuscan में translated है. So the only proof of the ancient sonnet we have is actually in Tuscan, but it is clearly mentioned that it is been translated from Sicilian reference. Now, how many of you have heard this name? ये नाम कितने बच्चों ने सुना है? Tuscan. कौन सी लैंग्वेज है ये? 10 सेकेंड सोचो. Let me read your comments. Tuscan. Okay, sorry, comments are disabled क्योंकि लेक्चर है ये. Opinion वाला जो कन्वर्सेशन होता है उसमें भी go for it. So, what is Tuscan? Never heard? कभी नहीं सुना? Have you heard about Divine Comedy? All my online batch, offline batch. Remember Chaucer's House of Fame? I was talking about Divine Comedy. Dante Alighieri, Italian writer. Inferno, Paradiso, Purgatorio, right? अब ये बताओ, Divine Comedy that is written by Dante, one of the greatest allegorical work of the world, is written in a language. कौन सी भाषा में लिखा गया है? You're right, Tuscan. Greatest work, Divine Comedy. It is said that all early medieval allegories are inspired from Divine Comedy. So, the greatest work is not written in Italian, not written in German, not in French, in a small border language. Italian Dalmatian, repeating again, small border language. Italian Dalmatian border language, which is called Tuscan. So, Divine Comedy is written in Tuscan. First sonnet proof we have is in Tuscan. ये पॉइंट्स हैं. देखो मेरे साथ प्रॉब्लम ये है, आपने कई स्टूडेंट्स ने CUT PG का सुना भी होगा. When I teach you or when we promote you to join the batch, I say this thing that if you are preparing for DO and JNU, then only you join me. I cannot teach below standard. Suppose I know great things, but I have to tell only basic because you want basic. I can't do that. अंदर से आता है और बताओ. Now, see. Talking about sonnets, so we know sonnet came from Italy to England. Now let's make it easy. Italy to England. Sonnet traveled. In Italy, it was called sonetto. In England, it was called sonnet. Right? वहां sonetto था, यहाँ पे sonnet हो गया. And what is the word sonetto? A small poetry, a small poem, romantic, mostly love songs and romantic poetry. In Italy, sonetto was used by Petrarch. Primarily, Petrarch, the greatest writer who was writing love sonnets for the ideal woman Laura. Question of net exam. All Petrarchan sonnets are dedicated to, all the love sonnets dedicated to Laura. Petrarch was using sonnet of form for Laura in Italy. Now, what was the Italian style? Make notes. So what was the Italian style Petrarch was using? 14 lines. A poetry in iambic pentameter. Iambic pentameter. Now, pentameter is 5 feet, 10 syllables. And iambic is stress followed by unstressed. I think unstressed followed by stress. Sorry, थोड़ा सा मिस हुआ. I think unstressed followed by stress है iambic. But I'll take a special class from iambic, dactyl, anapest, and trochee. इनका अलग से लूँगा class. Now see this. Okay, 5 feet 10 syllables. So this was used, and they divided sonnet in two parts: octave plus sestet. Octave plus sestet. First part, octave. First 8 lines of sonnet. First 8 lines of sonnet. Sestet. 6 lines of sonnet. Now, point to be noted. अब ये point note करना. 6 line poetry is also called sestina. So some writers used to write sestina, 6 line poetry. So ये भी याद रखना, sestina poetry. Now 14 lines poetry divided in first 8 and then 6 part, octave and sestet. That was the Petrarchan style. That was the Italian style. Okay, लिख लिया होगा ना, screenshot ले लेना इसका. Now the 14 line style was the actual style, the original style, and that was being used by Petrarch in Italy. Now, from England, these two people, the writers and diplomats, Thomas Yart and Henry Howard. Henry Howard. These two people went to Italy. Thomas Yart, it's W Y A T T, and Henry Howard. Most of the students, they know Henry Howard as Earl of Surrey. Earl of Surrey. He is also the same person who invented blank verse. Who invented blank verse. What is blank verse? Unrhymed iambic pentameter. What is blank verse? Point to be noted. एक ही लेक्चर में बहुत कुछ पढ़ने को मिल जाएगा. Unrhymed iambic pentameter. Iambic pentameter. जो स्टूडेंट्स घबरा रहे हैं कि सर ये तो सुना ही नहीं मैंने कभी, मेरे पास तो कॉमर्स थी ग्रेजुएशन में, साइंस थी, तो सर मैं कैसे पढ़ूंगा? The point to be noted, iambic pentameter is called, unrhymed iambic pentameter is called blank verse. Blank verse has been used by Shakespeare. और लोगों ने भी किया है. Marlowe. Ben Jonson said Marlowe's mighty line, right? So blank verse is an important thing. We can't ignore it. Who invented? Earl of Surrey. Who is Earl of Surrey? Henry Howard. So these are the point to be noted. Now let's get back. दोबारा चलते हैं. I will teach you blank verse when I will be teaching you Shakespeare and Marlowe. Now let's get back. अब वापस चलते हैं. So who brought sonnet from Italy to England? These two people, Henry Howard and Thomas Yart. Now when they brought sonnet from Italy to England, when I say they brought, how? They went to Italy, they came in contact with the literature of Italy, they read love sonnets written by Petrarch, that was called Petrarchan style. They got influenced, they thought it is a good sonnet, so they started copying it and writing it in English. So technically, sonnet came from Italy to English. In your exam, it can be a question. The word sonnet comes from sonetto. It is actually a word derived from Italian language. So it comes from Italy. Now, let's write like this. अब इसको ऐसे लिखते हैं. Role of Thomas Yart. When Thomas Yart brought sonnet from Italy to England, he did not do any change and just used Petrarchan style. He did not do any change. इसने कोई change नहीं किया. इसने as it is copy करा. Petrarchan style. Now remember this thing. Petrarchan style of octave and sestet, 8 plus 6, octave and sestet, is also called Italian sonnet. The original style. Italian sonnet. Also called classical sonnet. इसे classical भी बोलते हैं क्योंकि सबसे पुराना स्टाइल है. Also called classical sonnet. Petrarchan sonnet, Italian sonnet, classical sonnet. Now, along with these things, Yart was using the old idea, the old pattern. Now, somebody made the changes. Who made the changes? Surrey. So, if in exam they want to trouble you, they'll ask a question with what is Italian sonnet? What is classical sonnet? So please remember this thing. Petrarchan sonnet or original sonnet or Italian sonnet or classical sonnet, they are all same. इनका एक ही नाम है, same pattern है. They can play with words to confuse you. आपको confuse करने के लिए, परेशान करने के लिए, they can play with words. Now, what is the role of Earl of Surrey? अब जो हमारे Earl of Surrey हैं, what is his real name? Henry Howard. बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट आदमी, very important person in literature. Henry Howard, Earl of Surrey. He made some flexible changes. The 14-line sonnet got divided in three parts: 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 2. 14 lines. He divided sonnet. He did some pattern change. उसने pattern change कर दिया. Let's see how many of you are live. 69 students, 78 students are live. तब तक मैं अपने डॉग को खाना भी दे दूं, as it's a live class from my home. Tiger, come on. तब तक तुम खाना खाओ, मैं सोनेट पढ़ा के आता हूँ. So guys, this is the thing when you teach from home. This is called hybrid class. मैंने YouTube पे देखा था कि एक सर ने 15 घंटे लाइव क्लास की, हमको चक्कर आ रहा है, ऐसे ऐसे हो रहा है, उनकी मम्मी आ रही है थान प्लेट वेट लेके, चम्मच से कुछ खा ले बेटा, देश के लिए शहीद हो जाएगा. ये नौटंकी होती है, ये सब जरूर से ज़्यादा एक्टिंग है, क्योंकि टीचर में जरा से चक्कर. Have you seen some DU, JNU professors or big professors doing 15 घंटे का क्लास? खान सर, देवी कीर्ति सर, ओझा सर, चौहान सर, या some DU professors या JNU professors या BHU professors. देखा आपने कभी उनको क्लास में चक्कर आ रहा है लेकिन मैं 15 घंटे पढ़ाऊंगा? These are tactics. ये YouTube पे बेवकूफ़ बनाने की टेक्टिक्स है. बच्चे बेवकूफ़ बन जाते हैं, इमोशनल होते हैं स्टूडेंट्स. इमोशनल स्टूडेंट्स को कौन कॉल कर रहा है भाई? See, this is how we get troubled during the class. Okay, now get back. आप भी बोलो सर पढ़ाओ पढ़ाओ, अच्छा खासा फ्लो बन गया था. Get back. So, 14-line sonnet divided in three parts: 4, 4, 4 plus 2. So, point to be noted: Earl of Surrey, Henry Howard, the original pattern 14 lines, he did a pattern change, divided in three quatrains: quatrain 1, quatrain 2, quatrain 3. Quatrain is 4-line poetry, 4-line stanza. 4, 4, 4, 12 plus 2, a couplet, ending couplet. So the idea was dividing sonnets in three quatrains and a couplet. Couplet is mostly ending line. Now see, अब इसने changes कर दिए. Now you have understood the change. Now what was the rhyme scheme of these two sonnets? अब ये भी note करना है. This is also to be noted. The first thing, sonnet style by Yacht, sonnet style by Earl of Surrey. What are the rhymings? First 8 lines, 4, 4, 6 lines, C, D, E, C, D, E. When I teach in my online class, when I teach in my offline class, it's a simple thing. Petrarchan style, Yacht. This is called Abba, Abba, C, D, C, D. You can write it ABBA, ABBA. Best way to prepare for competition is just call it Abba, Abba, C, D, C, D. Right? So this is Petrarchan style. What is the rhyme scheme? Petrarchan style, Abba, Abba, C, D, C, D. Now comes the most important part. You have understood that Yacht brought sonnet, that was classical sonnet, Italian sonnet, Petrarchan sonnet. But Yacht, we have never heard about this man. So how this sonnet became famous? The point comes here. This sonnet style was actually used by the greatest writer, John Milton. ये writer Milton है, Milton, the writer of Paradise Lost, the greatest Puritan writer. John Milton, ये पढ़ने के लिए 6 साल गायब हो गया था. 1632 to 1638, hot 10 years, Milton disappeared only for study purposes. 6 साल दुनिया से कोने में जाके चुपचाप पढ़ने के लिए. He disappeared. Tiger, बैठो, शाबाश. Now see, this is also called Miltonic sonnet. So if they ask you a rhyme scheme, please remember This rhyme scheme is also called the rhyme scheme of Miltonic sonnet. यहां पे याद रखना, दिस इज कॉल्ड मिल्टॉनिक सोनेट. अब आती है राइम स्कीम इसकी. अब्बा अब्बा सी डी सी डन. नाउ when Sonnet did the changes, he divided it AB AB, CD CD, EF EF, EF EF, G G. 4 line, 4 line, 4 line. 3, 4, 4, 12, 4, 8, 12, couplet. AB, AB, and point to be noted. How to remember these things? Remember, AB, AB, it will not get repeated. Then CD, CD, it will not get repeated. EF, EF. See, AB, not repeated. CD, not repeated. Last, GG. So, याद करना बड़ा आसान है. It's very simple. Just remember. But yes, in exam, when the asked rhymes came in all four options, last two lines were GG. बहुत सारे बच्चे रट्टा मार के जाते हैं कि मैं तो लास्ट में देखूंगा जीजी मिल जाएगा तो जीजी कर देंगे उसको, लेकिन ऐसा नहीं था. तो प्लीज रिमेंबर, एबी एबी नॉट रिपीटेड, सीडी सीडी नॉट रिपीटेड, ईएफ ईएफ. दिस स्टाइल, again Sare is not that famous as a poet. This style was used by the greatest of all, my all time favorite writer William Shakespeare. वो लिटरेचर का लवर ही क्या जिसने शेक्सपियर ने पढ़ा. विलियम शेक्सपियर, the genius, the bard. Matthew Arnold was a big fan. Ben Jonson was a big fan. Who was not the big fan? Leo Tolstoy. Leo Tolstoy didn't like Shakespeare. Point to be noted. Clear है? समझ में आ गया? Now, please remember this point that Milton used old style, but most of the writers dealt with modern style. So that was modern style sonnet. This sonnet, William Shakespeare, this style, it is also called. Tiger, no. चलो चलो. पढ़ाने दो बेटा, पढ़ाने दो. I know you're happy. Go, jump. Good boy. Actually, I'm alone right now, so ये भी सोच रहा होगा ना कि इंसानों के कितने पंगे हैं. What this human is doing. He's happy. खाना है, घूमना है, बस. See, now he's doing his pause like this. I told you ना, he's 70% blind. Cataract हो गया इसको दोनों आंखों में, इसको दिखता नहीं है. So when he hears my voice, he comes around and मेरे आस पास रहता है. Now cutely he's doing this दोनों पंजों से. Okay, let me teach. Come on. So getting back, modern style. This sonnet is also called. इसको थोड़ा मिटा के लिखते हैं ताकि अच्छा समझ में आए. This sonnet is also called the English sonnet. Please remember the style, the English sonnet. If I have to ask a question, I will say, what is the rhyme scheme of the English sonnet? People will think, we know Shakespearean sonnet. Which stylists are asking? The English sonnet. So, Shakespearean sonnet, sonnet by Sare, is also called the English style sonnet. Make sure you remember that. आप इनमें से कुछ भी मत भूलना. That's very, very important. Now, let's take some examples so that you understand. Example of Petrarchan sonnet. Example of Petrarchan sonnet, also called Miltonic sonnet. Miltonic sonnet. Now, the point, we have some references. I'll take the important sonnets reference. Most important work is Milton का एक बहुत famous work है. When Milton talks about his blindness, दो work बहुत famous है, मैं famously use भी करता हूँ because they are my favorite work. First one is on arriving at the age of 23. On arriving at the age of 23. In short, this poetry sometimes is called on his 23rd birthday. This poetry is also called on his 23rd birthday. एक्चुअल टाइटल इज ऑन अराइविंग एट द एज ऑफ 23। नोट्स बनाते जाना दोस्तों। ये सब पढ़ाने के लिए मैं स्लाइड्स यूज कर सकता था, पीपीटी यूज कर सकता था, लेकिन मजा जो है ना खुद लिख लिख के पढ़ाने में, एक ऑफलाइन स्टाइल फील लेके पढ़ाने में। सो आई एम एंजॉइंग टीचिंग। नाउ सी, ऑन अराइविंग एट द एज ऑफ 23, मिल्टन का 23rd बर्थडे था, 23 साल का हो गया था। हम लोग क्या करते हैं, 23 साल के होते हैं तो हम सोचते हैं आईफोन नहीं है, बाइक नहीं है, या 23 साल के हो गए तो बर्थडे की लोगों की चॉइसेस होती हैं। अब देखो क्या होता है, मिल्टन 23rd year birthday, he says in the poetry, the first eight lines of the poetry and the last 6 lines of the poetry. What do we call the first 8 lines? Question of exam. Octave. Okay. What do we call the last 6 lines? Sestet. The first 8 lines and last 6 lines. Sestet. Octave. Now see, first 8 lines, Milton is sad. He says, I have wasted my 23 years. I didn't do anything to my God. I didn't do my services. I did not write any great work. God bestowed an honor upon me. God made me a poet. God gave me the poetic sensibility. It is a talent. I should have written something, but जिंदगी के 23 साल मैंने खराब कर दिए, मैंने किया क्या? First 8 lines, Milton's style is he raises a problem. First 8 lines, he raises a question. Milton हमेशा एक क्वेश्चन करता है। यहां पे क्या क्वेश्चन है? What is the question here? First 8 lines. Oh my God, I wasted my life. For 23 years, I was on Instagram, on Facebook. I wasted my life. अब मिल्टन खुद को, because this is the best thing. Milton creates question, then Milton finds answer from religion and from positivity. In last 6 lines, he says, my 23 years are actually not completely wasted. I did my study, I did my research, I have my intentions to write, I am ready to write, I am waiting for the command of God. He says it is the God. He doesn't need my work. And when he will want my work, he will motivate me. And I'm studying, I'm preparing myself, I'm reading. मिल्टन कहता है कि मैं पढ़ रहा हूं, मैं तैयार हूं, आई एम रेडी, एंड द डे गॉड विल ब्रिंग मी, विल गॉड अलाउ मी टू राइट. जैसे हम लोग बोलते हैं मंदिर जाने के लिए, मस्जिद जाने, हम कहते हैं ऊपर वाले का बुलावा आएगा तो जाएंगे. तो मिल्टन कह रहा है आदेश आएगा तो लिख देंगे, बट आई एम रेडी. सो हियर मिल्टन बिकम्स पॉजिटिव. मिल्टन पॉजिटिव हो जाता है, कहता है हाँ जी हम लिखेंगे, मैं तैयार हूं, मैंने मेहनत की है, आई एम फुल्ली रेडी एंड वी विल डेफिनेटली डू समथिंग गुड. नाउ पॉइंट टू बी नोटेड, मेरे स्टूडेंट्स हो, पॉइंट टू बी नोटेड, पैराडाइज लॉस्ट, द ग्रेटेस्ट वर्क रिटन बाय मिल्टन. Milton gives a hint in this sonnet. He says, I'm working and the day I will get the order from the God, I'll write the greatest work. वो कहता है मैं तैयार हूं, बस आदेश लिखूंगा, greatest work लिखूंगा. If you're my already online batch student, and if you have got my lectures on John Milton, I told you, Milton during his college days, early days, was working on 100 themes, greatest themes पे काम कर रहा था. 60 from English literature, 33 from Bible, 5 from Scottish romance, 2 from Oriental romances. Milton was working on 100 themes. 100 अलग अलग themes पे research कर रहा था. Those 100 themes have been used in Paradise Lost. So in this sonnet, in the last 6 lines, Milton tells us that he has a plan to write a big work. Point to be noted. Next point. After this class, you will never need to read anything related to sonnet. So share this video with your friends, siblings, those who are studying literature, even with your teachers. Another famous work by Milton, on his blindness. What I'm doing, I'm giving you the example of Miltonic style, octave sestet pattern. On his blindness, 90% people don't know that Milton became blind at the age of 44. As Milton was born 1608, मिल्टन पैदा हुआ था 1608 में. 1608 plus 44 years means logic. 1652 Milton became blind. 1652 में मिल्टन ब्लाइंड हो गया इन द एज ऑफ 44. Milton has been compared to Surdas. So what happens now? See, 1608 plus 44, 1652. Milton is blind. Milton was a revolutionary, an activist, participated in civil war of 1642 to 49, and was one of the main person who got Charles I killed. एक मिल्टन जैसा आदमी, एक्टिविस्ट, जिसमें दम है कुछ करने का, दुनिया बदलने का, वो ब्लाइंड हो जाए, वो भी 44 की एज में. व्हाट इज दैट एज 44? एंड हाउ मेनी ऑफ यू नो व्हाई मिल्टन बिकेम ब्लाइंड? Because of a lot of reading, excessive reading. Milton's doctor warned him to not to read in the dim light. There was no electricity at that time. They would have small lamp. Milton's doctor clearly told Milton not to read in dim light, but Milton didn't listen and constantly kept on losing his eyesight, which resulted in ultimate blindness. How do I know that? मुझे कैसे पता? Milton wrote Defense of English People, Part 1, Part 2. In second Defense of English People, Milton talks about his childhood. And there he says, ये line है, this is the famous line by Milton. He says, after the age of 6, I hardly remember I slept before midnight without reading. ये मिल्टन के वर्ड्स हैं. कहता है छोटा था 6 साल का, उसके बाद से मुझे याद नहीं है कि मैं आधी रात से पहले कभी सो गया हूं बिना पढ़े. एंड मिल्टन इज द सेम मैन हु डिसअपीयर्ड फॉर 6 years टू स्टडी द हॉटन ईयर 1632 to 1638. He used to, for him, Milton used to find relaxation in religion. So he read a lot of theology. Milton was well versed in multiple languages. उसने सारे धर्म पढ़े थे, सारे लिटरेचर पढ़े थे. So he was a devotee. Now see, on his blindness, मिल्टन हो गया अंधा, बेचारा दुखी है. क्या बोल रहा है? When I consider how my light is spent. This is the opening line. When I consider how my light is spent. मेरी आंखें कैसे चली गई हैं. बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट वर्क है, स्पेशली फॉर नेट ऑल्सो. बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट वर्क है. Now see, when I consider how my light is spent. In the first 8 lines, Milton shows himself as a kind of failed man. In the first 8 lines, the octave portion, Milton shows himself as a failed man, incomplete man. He says, I've lost my eyesight, I'm blind, I've lost my vision, I'm an incomplete man, मैं आधा अधूरा इंसान हूं और मैं क्या कुछ कर सकता हूं, मैं कुछ नहीं कर सकता, I'm good for nothing. And you feel that depression, you feel that pain. But in the last 6 lines, Milton gives himself an answer. बहुत प्यारी lines हैं. He says, God has thousands of angels waiting for his command. First of all, God doesn't need me. God has thousands of angels waiting for his command who fly with the time speed. And then, if God wants me, God will command me. Who gave me the eyes? God. If God has given me the eyes, God has all the rights to take the eyes back. So I should not even complain because it was the gift of God. God has rights to take it back. And then comes Milton. Then Milton comes with the greatest line. 2015 December net exam, this line was as it is asked. And then he comes and says, I am ready for his command. मैं तैयार हूं गॉड को सर्व करने के लिए. Those also serve who only stand and wait. Who only stand and wait. वो भी सर्व करते हैं जो हाथ बांध के गॉड के इंतजार करते हैं. He says, I am ready to serve my God with my folded hands. Means I'm waiting for the order and my wait itself is the service. Those also serve who only stand and wait. Those also serve who only stand and wait. So even if you're loyal to God, you're waiting for the command of God, that is a service. Last line. That was the example of Miltonic sonnet. पेपर में लिख के आना, मेरी नाक मत कटवा देना. लगना चाहिए कि विनीत पांडे के स्टूडेंट है, डीयू प्रोफेसर के स्टूडेंट है. चलो, now let's go for Shakespearean style. Shakespearean sonnet. What was the style? 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 2. AB, AB, CD, CD, EF, EF, GG, right? Shakespearean sonnet, also called the English sonnet. One of the famous question, this time it was also in net exam, ये पेपर में भी आया था इस बार. Shall I compare thee? Also called sonnet number 18. He talks about his best friend. He says, should I compare you to some season? First four lines, he talks about one reference. Another four lines, he says, should I compare to some marble images? ये कहता है किससे कंपेयर करूं, यू आर सो हैंडसम सो ब्यूटीफुल. लास्ट टू लाइंस में ही टॉक्स अबाउट द ग्रेटेस्ट फ्रेंडशिप. Shakespeare had a habit. Shakespeare used to take imageries, alag imageries, and in last two lines he used to give conclusions. So he से कहता है कि मैं इससे कंपेयर करूं, नेचर से कंपेयर करूं, मार्बल ब्यूटी से कंपेयर करूं, या जो फ्रेश ब्रीज है इससे कंपेयर करूं, और फिर लास्ट में दो लाइन में क्या कहता है? My friend cannot be compared with anybody. East or west, my friend is best. These are not the lines. लिख के मत देना पेपर में कि विनीत सर ने पढ़ाया है, पर बता रहा हूं मैं. सारी बातें करके कहता है जी मेरा बेस्ट फ्रेंड सबसे बेस्ट है. मींस where Milton was giving answer in 6 lines, Shakespeare gives in 2. This is again a famous one. Let me not the marriage. Let me not the marriage of true minds. Let me not the marriage of true minds. In this sonnet he talks about true love. यहां पे बात करता है सच्चे प्यार की. He talks about true love. True love is not love that admit impediments, that changes with the time, that is time's fool. So ये सच्चे प्यार की बात करता है. And when he talks about true love, he takes 3 examples. सच्चा प्यार ऐसा है, सच्चा प्यार वैसा है, सच्चा प्यार बदलता नहीं समय के साथ, सच्चा प्यार गरीबी देख के नहीं गायब होता. ये 3 अलग अलग क्वार्टर में बात करके he comes to the conclusion और बोलता है if this be not true, जो मैंने कहा है अगर वो गलत है, I shall never write, I shall never write, and no man ever loved, and no man ever loved. I have written it in 3 lines. It is actually in 2 lines. वो कहता है कि जो भी मैंने सच्चे प्यार के बारे में बोला, whatever I just spoke for my true love, if this be not true, अगर ये सच नहीं है, I shall never write. मैं लिखना ही बंद कर दूंगा. I will stop writing. I'll cease writing. I'll stop. I will never write again. And no man has ever loved. और कभी जिंदगी में इसका मतलब किसी ने प्यार किया ही नहीं है. He gives verdict. Shakespeare gives verdict in the last 2 lines. Milton used to take 6 lines. That is Shakespearean style, Miltonic style. That was Vineet Pandey style. अगर आपको explanation में मजा आया, पढ़ने में मजा आया, तो I hope you enjoyed. इसके अलावा कौन कौन से sonnets होते हैं? Spenserian sonnet, only for net purposes. Curtal sonnet, Pushkin sonnet. These are some other sonnets. In fact, some people tried to write sonnets in Urdu and Hindi, but that failed, was not like that much. Or if you're a net student, ये भी पढ़ना है, ये भी पढ़ना है हॉपकिंस वाला, and Alexander Pushkin Russian style ये भी पढ़ना है. But these sonnets are not important for CUET PG student, PGT student, DSSB and KV. ये आपके लिए नहीं आएगा, but for net anything can be asked. Now I hope you enjoyed my session. कुछ important information है आपके लिए, especially this one. This is my Instagram. Those who want to join me and my Tiger Pandey story, my Labrador story, scan this, be the part of my family. Now CUET PG इंग्लिश स्टूडेंट, आज एक स्टूडेंट आई थी बैच ज्वाइन करने के लिए, तो उनसे बात हुई एंड शी सेड कि सर मुझे ज्वाइन करना है, बिकॉज मैंने कहा एडमिशन बंद हो गए हैं, मार्च में एग्जाम है. शी सेड कि सर प्लीज ज्वाइन करवा दो. तो अभी आपके लिए सिंपल सा ऑफर है, ज्वाइन नाउ. अभी ज्वाइन करने का एक सिंपल सा फायदा है, इफ यू डू नॉट गेट सेलेक्टेड इन टॉप यूनिवर्सिटीज, नेक्स्ट बैच विल बी फ्री ऑफ कॉस्ट फॉर यू, स्पेशली फॉर आज के स्टूडेंट्स के लिए. ओके क्योंकि आई अंडरस्टैंड लास्ट मोमेंट है, Technically, admissions are closed, but still, if you want to join, you can join. If you do not get success, next batch will be free of cost for you. Next CUET PG batch will be free for you. आप उसको ज्वाइन कर सकते हैं आराम से. Stay tuned. And how to join? Simple method है. Because अभी आप रात को कॉल करोगे तो कोई उठाएगा नहीं. Simply गूगल पे, फोन पे, पेटीएम. दिस इज योर फीस. ये नंबर है गूगल पे, फोन पे, पेटीएम. करो एंड स्क्रीनशॉट फॉरवर्ड कर देना. स्क्रीनशॉट. This is only for CUET PG. Please remember this thing. Repeating again. ये CUET PG के लिए है ऑफर. नेट या कोई और स्टूडेंट गलती से यूज मत करना दोस्तों. जो नेट के स्टूडेंट हैं, इफ यू वांट टू स्टडी, इफ यू हैव एनी क्वेरी, इफ यू हैव एनी कंसर्न, यू लाइक्ड माय लेक्चर, यू वांट टू स्टडी लाइक दिस, दिस इज द नंबर यू कैन व्हाट्सएप मी. ये नंबर मेरे पास होता है. Here you can WhatsApp me. But this offer is only for CUET PG student. I hope I did justice with my lecture. See you again. And if you loved learning, don't forget to subscribe. Thank you so much. Good night.